In the heart of the wild, where untamed creatures roam free, a lone horse has defied all odds by forming an extraordinary bond with a pack of wolves. This mysterious alliance has captivated the imagination of local hunters and wildlife enthusiasts alike. But when one determined hunter ventures into the wilderness to uncover the truth, what he discovers is far beyond anything he could have anticipated. Join us as we delve into this remarkable story of survival, friendship, and the secrets of nature. For years, local scouts living near the edge of the wilderness had whispered about an extraordinary sight. A lone, wild horse roaming the rugged landscape, always accompanied by a pack of wolves. It was a scene so peculiar that it sounded more like folklore than fact, a tale spun by those who wanted to give the wild an air of mystique. Yet, as more people reported seeing this odd group, the story refused to fade into myth. It became a topic of fascination among hunters, naturalists, and even scientists. The horse was a striking figure, a powerful creature with a thick mane and a coat that gleamed in the sunlight. Its every movement exuded strength and confidence, as though it belonged to an ancient breed untouched by time. The wolves, on the other hand, were sleek and cunning, their silver and gray coats blending perfectly into the shadows of the forest. Together, they moved through the wilderness like a unit, a cohesive and coordinated team. What made the sightings even more puzzling was how seamlessly they worked together, like a family bound by survival rather than blood. In the natural order of things, wolves are apex predators, and a horse, especially one traveling alone, would typically be viewed as prey. But this group defied that expectation. Witnesses claimed they had seen the wolves forming a protective circle around the horse when it rested. On other occasions, the horse was observed leading the pack, signaling with subtle movements of its head or a sharp stomp of its hoof, and the wolves would obediently follow. Speculation ran wild in the local community. Some believed the horse was a mystical being, sent to guide the wolves, or perhaps imbued with some supernatural power that made it untouchable. Others thought it might have been a domesticated horse that had somehow bonded with the wolves for survival. But no one could deny that this relationship was far from ordinary. There were stories of the group appearing near rivers, where the horse would step into the water while the wolves waited on the bank, watching carefully for any sign of danger. Other times, hunters claimed to have seen them during hunts, wolves working as a team to bring down a deer while the horse lingered nearby, as though standing guard. It was as if the horse had become an honorary member of the pack, its role vital to their collective success. The more people discussed the phenomenon, the more questions arose. How did this alliance begin? Was the horse abandoned by its herd, forced to seek companionship elsewhere? Had the wolves raised it from a foal? And perhaps the most intriguing question of all, why did the wolves accept the horse as one of their own? Amateur wildlife enthusiasts and photographers tried to capture evidence of this unusual bond, but the group was elusive. The wilderness where they roamed was vast and remote, a mix of dense forests, rocky hills, and open plains. For those who ventured into this untamed terrain, catching even a glimpse of the mysterious group felt like stumbling upon a secret of nature. Among the locals, there was a sense of awe mixed with unease. Some feared that the horse and its wolf pack represented a shift in the natural order, a disruption to the balance of predator and prey. Others saw it as a testament to the adaptability of nature, a reminder that survival often demands innovation, and that even the fiercest predators are capable of forming unlikely alliances. Despite the numerous sightings and stories, no one had managed to get close enough to fully understand the dynamics of this remarkable relationship. The horse and its wolf companions seemed to exist on the edges of human comprehension, defying logic and challenging long-held beliefs about the natural world. What was clear, however, was that this was no ordinary herd and no ordinary pack. Together, they had created something extraordinary, a bond that blurred the lines between predator and prey, unity and survival. The story of the lone horse and its pack of wolves eventually reached the ears of a seasoned hunter named Ethan. Known for his sharp instincts and deep respect for the wild, Ethan had spent years traversing the rugged landscapes of the region. He had tracked predators, studied their behaviors, and even documented rare sightings of elusive creatures. But the tale of a horse and wolves living in harmony was unlike anything he had encountered. At first, he dismissed it as an exaggerated local legend, the kind of story that grew with each retelling. Yet, the sheer number of accounts and the consistency in the details piqued his curiosity. Ethan wasn't the type to be swayed by rumors. He relied on evidence, observation, and logic. If the story was true, he thought, there had to be an explanation grounded in nature. Perhaps the wolves were using the horse as a decoy to hunt prey, or maybe the horse had been injured and couldn't escape, forcing it to adapt to its circumstances. But even those theories seemed far-fetched. The idea of a predator-prey relationship transforming into an alliance was almost impossible to fathom. Intrigued and eager to uncover the truth, Ethan began preparing for an expedition into the wilderness where the sightings were most frequently reported. He packed light, but wisely, bringing binoculars, a sturdy camera, and a notebook to document what he saw. He also carried supplies for a week-long journey, knowing the vastness of the region would require patience and endurance. This wasn't a hunting trip. His goal wasn't to kill or capture, but to observe, understand, and perhaps solve the mystery that had baffled so many. Ethan started his journey at dawn, the golden light of the sunrise illuminating the path ahead. The wilderness stretched out before him, a blend of dense forests, open meadows, and jagged cliffs. It was a place teeming with life, yet unforgiving to those who ventured unprepared. Ethan was no stranger to its challenges. He had spent countless days tracking elusive creatures in these very woods. But this time, he felt a sense of anticipation, unlike anything he'd experienced before. The first few days were uneventful. Ethan found tracks, hoof prints alongside paw prints, but they were scattered and faint, as if the group was constantly on the move. He followed the trails diligently, noting how they meandered through the terrain. The prints often led to areas rich in resources, such as watering holes or meadows abundant with grass and small prey. It was clear that the group was navigating the wilderness with precision, avoiding human presence while ensuring their survival. As Ethan continued his search, he began piecing together clues about the group's behavior. The hoof prints were large and deep, indicating a strong and healthy horse. The paw prints, on the other hand, varied in size, suggesting a diverse pack with both adults and younger wolves. What struck him most was the symmetry of their movements. The tracks didn't show signs of chaos or struggle. They moved in unison, as if the horse and wolves were part of a coordinated effort. On the fourth day, Ethan stumbled upon a small clearing that bore signs of recent activity. The grass was trampled, and tufts of gray fur clung to the bark of nearby trees. In the center of the clearing lay the remains of a deer carcass, stripped clean, but with no sign of the typical violence associated with a wolf kill. It was as though the kill had been precise and efficient, a hallmark of both wolves' cunning and the horse's influence. Ethan crouched beside the carcass, studying the marks. The bite pattern suggested wolves, but the arrangement of the carcass seemed almost deliberate, as if it had been moved to ensure every member of the group could share in the meal. That night, as he camped beneath the stars, Ethan replayed the day's discoveries in his mind. The evidence was mounting, but it only deepened the mystery. How did the horse fit into this dynamic? Was it merely tolerated by the wolves, or did it play a more active role? And why had the horse chosen to stay with them instead of seeking out its own kind? Ethan's curiosity grew stronger with each passing day. He couldn't help but feel a strange admiration for the group, whose bond seemed to defy the natural order. This wasn't just a survival tactic. It was something deeper, something that hinted at a level of intelligence and adaptability he hadn't expected to find. The wilderness, he realized, still held secrets far beyond human understanding, but he was determined to uncover at least one of them, the story of the lone horse and its loyal pack of wolves. After nearly a week of tracking, Ethan's persistence finally paid off. At sunrise on the 6th day, as the mist began to lift from the forest floor, he stumbled upon a narrow ridge overlooking a secluded valley. He crouched low, carefully scanning the landscape with his binoculars. At first, the scene appeared quiet, just a stretch of rolling terrain, dotted with sparse trees and bushes. But then, movement caught his eye. Emerging from the shadows of the tree line was the horse. Even from a distance, it was a majestic sight. The animal stood tall, its muscular frame glistening in the soft morning light. Its coat was a rich, dark chestnut, and its mane flowed in tangled waves that gave it a wild, untamed appearance. And it moved with deliberate confidence, its hooves striking the ground with a quiet but assured rhythm. Ethan's breath caught as he noticed the pack of wolves flanking the horse, moving in perfect harmony. The wolves were sleek and agile, their movements almost predatory, yet they showed no signs of aggression toward the horse. Instead, they appeared to be shadowing it, maintaining a formation that suggested not just companionship, but protection. Ethan's heart raced as he watched the scene unfold before him, a tableau of nature that seemed almost too surreal to be real. The group made their way to a small stream cutting through the valley. The horse took the lead, stepping into the shallow water and lowering its head to drink. The wolves lingered at the edge, their keen eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs of danger. Ethan noticed that the wolves positioned themselves strategically, as though creating a perimeter to guard the horse while it drank. The dynamic was unlike anything he had ever seen in his years of studying wildlife. Ethan remained perfectly still, his vantage point allowing him to observe without being noticed. As he watched, he began to pick up on subtle behaviors that hinted at the complexity of their relationship. The horse, despite its size and strength, didn't behave like a dominant leader. Instead, it seemed to communicate with the wolves through small gestures, a flick of its ears, a swish of its tail, or a gentle stomp of its hoof. The wolves, in turn, responded instantly, adjusting their movements as though following unspoken commands. The interplay between them was mesmerizing. When the horse lifted its head sharply and turned toward the east, the wolves immediately shifted their focus in the same direction. Ethan strained his eyes to see what had caught their attention, but found nothing out of the ordinary. Yet the group didn't linger. The horse stepped out of the stream, shook the water from its coat, and began moving toward a dense thicket. The wolves followed without hesitation, their formation tightening around the horse as they disappeared into the underbrush. Ethan's mind raced as he processed what he had just witnessed. This was no random association, no simple case of animals tolerating each other out of necessity. There was a clear sense of purpose in their actions, a mutual understanding that transcended the typical dynamics of predator and prey. The horse and wolves had formed a unit, each playing a role that benefited the other. But why? What had driven them to forge such an unlikely bond? As the group vanished from sight, Ethan knew he had to see more. He carefully descended from the ridge, taking care to stay downwind and keep his movements silent. He followed the trail they had left, his senses heightened with adrenaline. The tracks were fresh, leading him deeper into the wilderness where the trees grew thicker and the light dimmed. Hours passed as Ethan tracked the group, his anticipation building with each step. Finally, he came upon another clearing. This time, the group was resting. The horse stood in the center, its ears swiveling as it listened for any potential threats. The wolves were sprawled around it, some lying on their sides while others remained alert. It was a scene of quiet camaraderie, the kind of peaceful coexistence that defied every natural instinct. Ethan crouched low, taking out his camera to capture the moment. Through the lens, he could see the details more clearly, the way the wolves seemed to position themselves in a protective semicircle around the horse, and the way the horse occasionally turned its head to check on them. It was as though the horse had adopted the role of a leader, yet it was clear that the wolves were far more than subordinates. They were partners, bound by an invisible thread of trust and necessity. For hours, Ethan observed them from the safety of his hiding spot. He saw the horse lead the wolves to a patch of grass where it grazed while the wolves scouted the area. He watched as the wolves returned, their movements sharp and deliberate, as if signaling that the coast was clear. The horse responded by continuing to graze, its relaxed demeanor a stark contrast to the wolves' vigilant stance. As the sun began to set, the group moved again, disappearing into the forest. Ethan stayed behind, his mind buzzing with questions. What he had witnessed was more than just a survival strategy. It was a relationship built on mutual respect and understanding, a bond that challenged every assumption he had about the natural world. And though he was no closer to understanding how or why it had begun, one thing was certain: this was a story that needed to be told. As Ethan continued to follow the group over the next several days, his understanding of their dynamic began to deepen. Each interaction, every subtle behavior, seemed to reveal another layer of the extraordinary bond between the horse and the wolves. However, it wasn't until the 8th day of his journey that he stumbled upon a scene that would finally provide the answers he sought and shock him to his core. The morning began much like the others, with Ethan carefully tracking the group's movements through the wilderness. He had become adept at reading their signs: hoof prints alongside paw marks, broken branches, and patches of disturbed earth where they had rested. By now, he had grown almost accustomed to the strange alliance, but his curiosity remained as sharp as ever. He was determined to uncover not just how they functioned as a unit, but why this partnership had formed in the first place. Around midday, Ethan found himself at the edge of a steep ravine. Below him, a dense thicket of bushes and trees obscured much of the ground. From his vantage point, he could see faint movement in the shadows. He crouched low, raising his binoculars for a better view. There they were, the horse and its wolf pack, moving in unison as they made their way toward an open clearing. This time, however, something was different. The wolves seemed unusually agitated, their movements erratic and tense. They darted back and forth, their ears pinned back and tails low as if on high alert. The horse, too, was behaving strangely. It stomped its hooves and tossed its head, its body language signaling a mix of unease and urgency. Ethan's pulse quickened. Whatever was happening, it wasn't routine. As he watched, the group came to a halt near the edge of the clearing. The horse stood tall, scanning the horizon, while the wolves spread out in a defensive formation. Ethan strained to see what had caught their attention. Then he heard it, a low, guttural growl that sent a shiver down his spine. From the opposite side of the clearing, a shadow emerged. It was a bear, not just any bear, but a massive grizzly, its powerful frame covered in scars that told the story of countless battles. The beast lumbered into view, its eyes locked onto the group. Ethan's breath caught as he realized what was about to unfold. This was a predator even the wolves would avoid under normal circumstances. Yet, here they were, facing it head-on. The grizzly let out a deep roar, a sound that echoed through the clearing and seemed to shake the very ground beneath Ethan's feet. The wolves responded immediately, their hackles raised and teeth bared. They fanned out, positioning themselves to flank the bear, but it was clear that they were outmatched. Ethan's heart raced as he watched the horse take a step forward, placing itself between the bear and the pack. What happened next defied every expectation. The horse let out a loud, piercing whinny, a sound so forceful that it seemed to give even the grizzly pause. It reared up on its hind legs, its hooves striking the air with a ferocity that Ethan had never seen before. The wolves, emboldened by the horse's display, moved in closer, snapping and growling to distract the bear. For several tense moments, the clearing became a battleground. The bear lunged forward, but the horse stood its ground, its hooves slamming into the earth with thunderous force. Each time the grizzly advanced, the wolves darted in to nip at its sides, retreating just as quickly to avoid its massive claws. It was a coordinated effort, a seamless dance of strategy and courage. Ethan watched in awe as the horse and wolves worked together to drive the bear back. The horse's strength and size made it a formidable opponent, while the wolves' agility and teamwork kept the grizzly off balance. After what felt like an eternity, the bear let out a frustrated roar and retreated into the forest. The group had won. As the tension in the clearing eased, Ethan noticed something remarkable. The horse didn't just return to grazing or move on as if nothing had happened. Instead, it turned to the wolves, nuzzling a few of them in what appeared to be a gesture of gratitude. The wolves, in turn, wagged their tails and brushed against the horse's legs. It was a moment of quiet celebration, a reaffirmation of their bond. Ethan sat back, his mind reeling. The encounter had given him a glimpse into the heart of their relationship. This wasn't just a matter of survival or convenience. The horse and the wolves had formed a true partnership, one built on trust, mutual benefit, and an extraordinary level of communication. The horse provided strength and leadership, while the wolves offered protection and support. Together, they were greater than the sum of their parts. As Ethan packed up his equipment and prepared to move on, he realized that he had witnessed something far more profound than he had ever anticipated. This wasn't just a story about a lone horse and a pack of wolves. It was a story about the resilience of life, the power of adaptation, and the unexpected ways in which the natural world could challenge and inspire humanity. What he had seen would stay with him forever, a reminder that even in the harshest of environments, bonds could form that defied explanation and revealed the true wonder of the wild. The journey back to civilization was a reflective one for Ethan. As he retraced his steps through the wilderness, every detail of his experience with the horse and wolf pack replayed in his mind. The sight of them working together to fend off a predator as formidable as a grizzly bear had left an indelible mark on him. It wasn't just the raw power or strategic brilliance of the encounter that struck him. It was the bond they shared, a relationship that seemed to transcend the boundaries of instinct and biology. The wilderness had shown him something rare, something he could barely put into words. As Ethan reached the outskirts of the forest and began the long trek home, his thoughts turned to the implications of what he had witnessed. The natural world, he realized, was far more complex than most people understood. For centuries, humans had categorized animals into neat boxes: predators and prey, dominant and submissive, strong and weak. But the horse and wolves had defied all those labels, creating a relationship that blurred every line Ethan thought he knew about the natural order. For years, Ethan had been a man of practicality. He believed in understanding the wilderness through observation and logic, using his skills to decode the mysteries of the wild. But this experience had changed him. It wasn't just about understanding anymore. It was about appreciating the unpredictability and depth of nature. The bond between the horse and wolves wasn't something that could be easily explained. It was a testament to the adaptability and resilience of life, a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, relationships could form in the most unexpected ways. When Ethan finally returned to his cabin, he set down his gear and immediately began to document everything he had seen. He wrote with a fervor he hadn't felt in years, filling page after page with detailed notes, sketches, and reflections. The story of the lone horse and its pack of wolves was too extraordinary to keep to himself. It was a tale that needed to be shared, not just as a curiosity or an anomaly, but as a lesson in the interconnectedness of life. As he wrote, Ethan found himself pondering deeper questions. What had driven the horse and wolves to form their bond? Was it a matter of necessity, a desperate bid for survival in an unforgiving landscape? Or was there something more, something intangible that drew them together? The answer, he realized, might never be fully understood. But perhaps that was the beauty of it. Not everything in nature could, or should, be reduced to simple explanations. Over the following weeks, Ethan shared his story with those who would listen. Hunters, naturalists, and even skeptical townsfolk gathered around him, hanging on his every word as he described the remarkable bond he had witnessed. At first, some doubted his account, dismissing it as an exaggerated tale. But Ethan's detailed descriptions, his sketches of the horse and wolves in action, and the passion in his voice began to sway even the most skeptical listeners. Word of the story spread quickly, reaching wildlife researchers and conservationists who were eager to learn more. Some reached out to Ethan, hoping to accompany him on a return trip to the wilderness to see the group for themselves. Others used his account as inspiration for studies on interspecies relationships and cooperation in the animal kingdom. The story became a spark for broader discussions about the complexity of nature and the limits of human understanding. Ethan, however, remained protective of the group. He knew that too much human interference could disrupt the delicate balance they had created. He chose to share only enough details to convey the essence of their story, withholding specific locations to ensure their safety. To him, the horse and wolves represented something sacred, a symbol of the wild's ability to surprise and inspire, even in an age where so much of nature seemed to be losing its mystery. As time went on, Ethan found himself reflecting on how the experience had changed him. He had always seen himself as an observer, someone who studied the wild from a distance. But the horse and wolves had shown him that there was more to the natural world than observation could capture. There was connection, emotion, and an undeniable sense of wonder. For the first time in years, he felt a renewed sense of purpose, not just as a hunter or a naturalist, but as a storyteller, a bridge between the human world and the mysteries of the wild. Ethan's story became more than just a tale of an unusual bond. It became a reminder of the lessons the wilderness had to offer. In a world often divided by conflict and competition, the horse and wolves had shown the power of unity and cooperation. They had demonstrated that survival wasn't just about strength or cunning, but about adaptability, trust, and the ability to form relationships in the unlikeliest of circumstances. In the years that followed, Ethan continued to return to the wilderness, though he never again encountered the horse and its pack. He liked to think they were still out there, navigating the rugged terrain together, their bond as strong as ever. And though he never saw them again, their story stayed with him, a reminder of the wild's enduring capacity to surprise, teach, and inspire. As he sat by the fire one evening, gazing out at the vast expanse of wilderness beyond his cabin, Ethan couldn't help but smile. The horse and wolves had left their mark on him, not just as a hunter or an observer, but as a human being. They had shown him a side of nature that few ever get to see, a side that spoke of resilience, connection, and the extraordinary beauty of the unexpected. And for that, he was endlessly grateful.